Make sure you don't miss a thing. Go to starzology.com/newsletter and sign up. Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hello, Alison. It's great to be here again.
Thanks so much for joining me once more. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about Saturn moving into Aries. Mm-hmm. So this is happening in 2025. Yeah. And as you'll see, it doesn't happen that often. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah. We're going to be discussing a little bit about what does Saturn mean, what does Aries mean, and what this combination of two different things is likely to express, or how it's likely to express itself.
Absolutely.
For everybody.
Absolutely. So just a bit about Saturn's orbit.
Yeah.
It takes about 30 years to go around the zodiac.
Yeah.
So it spends a little more than 2 years, 2.5-ish in each sign. And that means that that's why we say your Saturn return happens around the age of between 28 and 30, because depending on some, retrograde periods, et cetera, yeah, Saturn will come back to the position it was when you were born, approximately 28 to 30 some, right around that exactly.
And that's the first one.
That's the first one. And then when you're 56, and then again when you're,
80 something? Yes.
87? Yeah. 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 So it's a big one. Its movements are important. And it's not a generational planet in the sense that Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are, but it does definitely define little sort of sub-generational cohorts.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Right. I mean, if you think about when you were in high school and college, you probably had friends who were 1 or 2 grades ahead of you or below you, but not really outside of that age range, because at that time, those differences seem huge. And when we get older, of course, you can be friends with people of any age. But when you're just forming your personality, you're probably going to be feeling most comfortable with people who have Saturn in the same sign as you, or
yes,
yeah.
Well, everyone in your year at school will have Saturn in the same sign as you, and they keep coming through. Well, all the planets, really, I suppose.
The big ones, yeah.
The big ones, yeah. The big ones.
Retrogrades notwithstanding, blah blah blah. Yeah. But most people, and which is not obviously not to say you get along with everyone in your class, but but right. I mean, you will have experienced the same milestone events, those things that define generations.
Yes.
Everyone in my, middle school class was sitting there watching the Challenger explosion, for example. So that's a generation-defining moment where you're sitting there in class. They've wheeled in the television like they used to do anytime there was a big thing happening, and then they wheeled it out sort of like, after that happened, and we all were like.
And you've got Saturn in what sign?
I have Saturn in Cancer.
Okay.
So I'm of that. Not homeschool, what's the word? Latchkey kid kind of generation. Right. And, we came home and our parents were still at work.
Challenger disaster, gosh.
So that was one of the big, and then, of course, a couple of years later, the wall coming down and Chernobyl and, these big events that happened when we were sort of in our really formative years, the first news events that really impacted us.
Yes.
Were those are the kind of things that now, like when we think about it, generational markers, those are the kind of things that are defining people in a similar age cohort.
It's very interesting you say about Challenger, because when I was a kid at school, we actually had the day off when the moon landing was happening in 1969.
Right.
And everyone in my generation was at home watching that on TV with all the crackle and what's it called? The
static.
The static coming through.
Yeah.
And
we watching riveted on the edge of your
seat.
We
had the day off. Houston, and so that's probably the first thing I even remember watching on TV, to be honest.
Right, totally. So these are pivotal events that affect everyone, and that is one of those things about Saturn. It's the things that restrict us or limit us, or things that we're afraid of. I always think of it as kind of like the Jupiter and Saturn are the big planets that were kind of the limit of the solar system up until the modern era, until we had scientific instruments to detect the planets that were farther out and not visible to the naked eye. So Saturn was kind of like the disciplinarian dad, and Jupiter was like the gregarious, like generous dad who wants to lavish you with gifts and give you all the support and all the moral teaching and raise you by example. And Saturn is the one who's like, put on a sweater, and you need to study this or that, and you need to get serious about your what have you.
Yes.
And that kind of thing.
It kind of is too. Saturn does get a bad rep because it is quite. I don't think it's a fun planet, but it does have its upsides, right? I think one of the positive keywords for Saturn is mastering things.
Yes.
So in time, which is another thing that Saturn rules, is if you apply yourself with due diligence, you will master things.
Absolutely. And that's what the sign of Saturn represents in your chart, is those things that do not come naturally to you at first and are frightening at first, but that with diligence and with time and with application of effort, you can become an example to others.
Yes.
That can be like a hidden strength that doesn't come across in your youth before your first Saturn return, maybe even not until after your second. Yes. But with any luck, then you become very, very strong in Saturn's sign.
Yeah. It's actually an interesting planet that is very much the backbone of charts, but people tend to live it. But we all hope for, a fun life and a fabulous partner and lots of money.
Fairy tales,
yes,
the American dream, the Canadian dream.
Cinderella, or Sleeping Beauty, or Your Prince Will Come,
Yeah.
But Saturn has a different view on it, yeah.
Awakened with a kiss, the dream of all the young girls. But yeah, so where do you have Saturn?
Capricorn.
Capricorn.
So it's in its own sign, which for me it's a very quiet Saturn, and I don't know about due diligence. I mean, I do what I can.
You were a very hard worker.
Well, there's that, but I wasn't.
About you.
It kind of is, and because I think we've spoken before, it's in my 5th house, so it tends to be where my children. I was rigorously with them.
Oh yeah.
And they even talk about it today, and it's a big laugh now, but it wasn't at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I just felt that's how I know. There's nothing worse than other people's kids, right?
Yeah.
So I did my best. I tried to do my best with them, but
it's interesting that we have Saturn in the opposite.
I know, and it's probably what's your. Oh, you've got it at 2 and I've got it at 0. So they're actually
literally opposite.
Opposite each other.
That is so funny.
I know.
It is actually kind of funny because sometimes, here's a little background insider scoop for all of our loyal, devoted listeners.
Yes.
We will sometimes have little conversations, obviously, as you do, before and after our recording sessions. And they can be on any topic, family, work, blah, 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 the trivialities of our day and little things that are bothering us or whatever.
Yes.
And just a little kind of, decompression kind of conversations. And if you think about the kinds of things that we bring to the table, there's a lot of them that have to do with our Saturn. The things that I will come in the door and, all flustered and ranting about, they may be kind of Saturn and Cancer type things.
Yeah,
and vice versa.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Things, it's like, I can't believe I'm having to,
yes,
come to grips with this thing. This,
yes,
it's the hashtag adulting, the UGG, the burden of responsibility that we never quite feel worthy of or that we're mastering, but yet we probably are, especially
probably.
At our
I mean, my current bugbear is that things are getting slid onto my calendar and I really don't have time to address them, whereas normally I would stop them before they got onto my calendar, but some things have slipped past me recently and suddenly I'm having busy days and having to reschedule and, it's it was never used to be this way, so we need to clamp down again.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. But Saturn in Aries.
Saturn in Aries. So Aries is a fire sign, right?
Yeah. It's the first cardinal, what's the first sign of the fire sign? It's the cardinal one.
That's right. And recently we've had, we also want to talk about the many of the outer planets have changed or are recently changing. Pluto recently changed. Neptune has gone into Aries.
Yeah. Jupiter's changing signs very soon.
And Uranus is moving into Gemini. And Saturn's going into Aries. Normally, these outer ones really don't move much apart from Jupiter.
Yeah.
But
all in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There's a whole shift towards this cardinality. I think we've spoken about this before.
Yeah.
And that really means the leadership.
Yeah.
The follow me over the,
Yeah, totally.
The cardinal signs.
I'll change everything for you. I'll remake the world in your image. This is what the politicians tell us, right? And there's this cardinal energy of let's break it all down and start from scratch.
Let's put some tariffs left, right, and center, and then we're backing out, and then we're moving forward.
Yeah, the slash and burn of the Doge team, stopping all sorts of things, and maybe too many things, and maybe not enough things. We don't really know.
Governments are changing.
Yeah. Governments in the U.S. just changed, like literally beginning of this year, and the Canadian government will change shortly.
Soonish.
A few months from now.
So there's a lot of that. But Aries is also, because it's the first sign of the zodiac, it tends to be, it's almost like, okay, let's start again. Because it's all come out of Pisces, where things have been getting a bit loosey-goosey, or things have been sliding, and maybe this is where politicians have thought, well, that tax has slid too long, we're going to stop it now.
Yeah.
And
totally, and things kind of swept under the rug, or things that have been hanging on maybe for sentimental reasons, or for some weird kind of nebulous reason that no one remembers anymore. And is that even valid now?
Mm-hmm.
And Aries just comes in with its ramming energy and kind of,
as we see
breaks it all apart, like the
EDI thing, right? That is a total shift that was totally unexpected.
Yeah,
but it has ramifications. But anyway,
there's ramifications to all this stuff, and no pun intended, ramifications.
Yes, because the ram is the symbol for Aries.
Aries, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And we'll get into this later, but one of the interesting things too is that with Saturn going into Aries, Jupiter later in the year is going into Cancer, and they will square each other in June.
Right.
So we will get into that later, but that's an interesting thing that's happening with both of those being in cardinal signs, and those are two big planets having a moment, having a little
so we'll definitely we'll be digging into that later on in the year, because it depends where it actually occurs and how it will affect people.
But it is one of those sort of, what's the word, what do we say, transpersonal, it's not those aren't transpersonal planets.
They're called the social planets.
The social planets, exactly. So society, not social in the sense of like happy-go-lucky cocktail party, but society
and what's going on outside your personal life.
Outside the home.
And this is really what is being expressed at the moment, isn't it? So So do we have some kind of themes where we think that I've got some thoughts on Saturn in Aries themes.
Absolutely.
So I'm just going to toss a few out there.
Awesome.
Building self-discipline, because the self bit is the Aries thing where as an individual, this will be a chance for these 2.5 years for us to get some better self-discipline if we require it. Not everybody does, but if you've been sliding as when Saturn was in Pisces and you're not at the gym and you're not eating right and you're not doing the right thing. Doom scrolling. You will now be able to, if you so desire, to get some self-discipline and say, this is how I want to live my life.
I need to focus on myself. I need to do this for myself.
Yes.
It's a pleasantly selfish energy.
Yeah.
And it's the keywords for Aries are I am, I believe, right?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so
I am going to get better at whatever your thing is, wherever this is happening for you.
I am going to master this thing. I'm going to get better at this thing. I'm going to take charge of this thing, take control of this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
And we've all got areas of our life where we're trying to cut out what's not working, add more of what is working so that you can be a more authentic person.
I am going to learn to say no to this or that.
I was going to learn to
limit my time spent doing this or that thing. Yeah.
At the whims of others, And I think it's a combination too. And my question here is it a sprint or a marathon? Because the sprinting is Aries, but the marathon bit's Saturn.
Yeah. So would you say Saturn and in Aries is a comfortable placement for Saturn?
Not particularly.
No.
Because it wants to take time.
It's very much like that Mars-Saturn thing where Mars and Saturn are never, even if it's a sextile, there's a friction because those energies are so opposite to each other.
So different, right?
Yeah, it's like having the like in a car, I don't drive, so this metaphor, I'm like, is it the right one? Having the gas and the brake on at the same time? Yeah. And you're like,
yeah. So here, what we're saying is that the Aries energy wants to get things done right now, but Saturn's saying, no, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And build up to it.
Yeah.
You can't just go and run a marathon. You have to start with your 2Ks and 5Ks and however many Ks.
Build up your endurance. It's not just about the initial burst of strength.
Yes.
interestingly, I just watched here's my first digression of the day. My mother and I actually watched this together. It's a fascinating show. I think it's on Disney Plus. You can watch it. It's called Limitless with Chris Hemsworth, the guy who plays Thor. And it is a fascinating docuseries. It's 6 episodes, and it's all about longevity and building up. There's an episode about strength. There's an episode about memory. There's an episode about the acceptance of death, which is the final episode. And leading up to that, there are all these great, and it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, the brilliant director. So it's just eye candy as well, and not just Chris Hemsworth, but there's that too. But they go to these amazing different places in Australia where Chris is from, and Africa and Arizona, and all these wonderful locations where they're doing all these wonderful drone shots, and you can see like it very much illustrates the sort of the time. It's very, actually, I mean, it came out in 2022, so it's not influenced by Saturn Aries. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because it is very much about the difference between those muscles that are just for show, like when you build up to be Thor in a movie, versus the muscles that are required for endurance or for actually
getting through life,
and the long haul, and that wanting to live and be super healthy into your 90s for your family, for your children, for your children's children, and to establish those healthy habits now so that you can actually continue to be Thor well into your 80s and 90s.
But this Saturn in Aries is going to be a good time to do that.
Precisely. This is what I'm saying. Yeah. That balance of the sprinting versus the marathon.
Yeah, because you see it even with the bodybuilders and they're saying, I don't necessarily want to bench 350, but I want to look like I do.
Yeah. And those muscles are decorative at best.
Yes. Or the six-pack thing or whatever they're called. And but one wants to be toned, and Aries is an athlete.
For sure.
It's the gladiator.
Yeah,
so,
it is, exactly.
And gosh, what are we going to look like by the end of this there, Arwynne?
But Saturn is that dose of reality where it's like, no, you need to have strong ligaments, you need to have a strong heart, you need to have the framework and the bones and all of that, all of that context, so that you don't just have these useless, bulging, inflated muscles that can't actually pull you through the long haul or do anything useful other than flex in front of the camera.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Totally.
So another a couple of keywords, what I have is for personal responsibility. So the onus is now shifted from it's everybody else's problem when it's Pisces, it's them, to now, what can I do about this? Because Aries is very much a personal sign where it's all about the individual, because it's the first one. I am is your keyword. And when you're saying these things, that's Aries talking.
Yeah. And maybe you can take those lessons of Saturn in Pisces, which were about having a more nebulous and global vision and wanting to heal the world and all that stuff, but then taking it to a practical level where you're actually going to be putting steps, like immediate steps that you can do in action.
Yes.
And not just going, the world, it's this overwhelming, it's too much and all that.
Yes.
And hiding under the covers because you want to heal the world. And how do you do that? Yeah. Well, this is Saturn in Aries is about how we actually begin to
take the first
individual step. Do that.
Yeah. So this is also a time of discipline in action.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about channeling your energy with purpose.
Totally.
Because in the course of the day, we all have so much energy, and the older I get, I seem to have less energy. But the energy I do have, I want to make sure I'm putting it into the things that are purposeful for me, that interest me.
Yeah.
And I spend my spare moments, really. This is what are you doing in spare moments? Doing my craft and my art, and the wool is just growing in the corner there by itself. But I had to today. I had to purposely go out in the rain to the wool shop because I was running out of stuff. Small potatoes, but normally I would have thought, let me order it from Amazon. But no, I needed it today. So it's one of those things where channeling energy with purpose, knowing what you're trying to achieve this year, and where you want to focus your energy, and where you want to, if you're into helping people, how you want to help people, or what you want to do to make things better for everyone, and channeling that energy. What can you practically do?
Yeah. And taking calculated risks, I think, is a great keyword.
That's a good one.
And being brave, but being brave in a responsible and cautious way. It's that cautious courage You know, you don't want to run into the breach and then suddenly be overwhelmed, because then you are not helping yourself. You're not helping anyone. You put your mask on before you help the child in the airplane.
That is exactly the thing, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And it may feel selfish or self-indulgent to look after yourself first, because Saturn is not about self-care usually, but Aries is definitely about your personal limitations and your personal approach to doing the responsible in the long term and the strengthening over time.
Yes. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you're spending your time purposefully, rather than just willy-nilly flopped on the couch watching Netflix and eating a bag of chips in your pajamas.
Totally.
So Pisces. But once you get into Aries, the idea is that, I mean, I've got these ideas of hiking and doing the small potatoes, doing a 5K walk, walking the seawall. And the first I'm thinking, well, I need to get the shoes, and I do, to support it all so that we can all keep walking on. And I've never been a fitness person, and I consider walking quite a bit of exercise, but
it's great exercise. Yeah.
If you're someone who's already doing some serious exercise, it's the idea is to now focus to it and say, well, let me take what I have and improve what I'm doing. If I could do the steps in 25 minutes, maybe I can do them in 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Yeah. And blah, blah, blah. Personal bests want to come through.
And you reach a plateau especially in fitness. So it's a good metaphor, but it's not just about fitness, but you get into a rut and you do the same thing because you do it mindlessly, and you can just kind of tune out and do the same thing over and over. I'm definitely guilty of that. Right. I'm very much not the kind of person who wants to create a fitness plan and do all this stuff. I have a great friend who's really good about recommending new things to try. We did kickboxing for a couple of months, and what could be more Aries than kickboxing? But it's just something different, so that you're not just droning into the same thing. And winter is so awful for us here. It's not that cold, and yes, we're in Canada, but it's not that kind of Canada. It's just rain. It's like Seattle weather, and it can be very demoralizing. It much more desirable to lie on the couch and just watch season after season of something. And don't get me wrong, we do, but but it's finding little personal ways of continuing the battle and
putting it forward,
picking new battles.
I'm talking also about courage under pressure, so that you show your strength under adversity, and the adversity will come from limitations imposed on you by Saturn, which tends to be authority figures. So if you're young, it's your parents. If you're an adult, it's, I don't know, the traffic cop.
Your boss.
Your boss.
Always your boss, at any age.
At any age. There's always kind of somebody calling the shots around whoever you are. Yeah. But finding the strength, which is the Aries, within that to work with it so that your life is better.
Yeah, and finding your own voice and your own authority. And as we said, learning
your own authority, yes.
But also knowing when to not take it personally and to sit back and kind of know the difference between, am I feeling put upon and picked on because I'm not used to this kind of pressure, or do they have a point? Do I need to learn? Is this a moment for me to grow and to accept the constructive feedback?
Yes, because it will come.
Absolutely. I mean, it always will. And we can just hope that we have someone who's looking out for us and giving us constructive feedback in a way that we can actually assimilate. And it's not always comfortable, even from the most, the most charming source. But being able to realize that and say, thank you for the feedback. I am working on that, and I respect your opinion, and that is something I'm working on. And that was a little bit of advice. Honestly, another digression. Another digression from this week. Actually, my partner is wonderfully social in a way that I, as a lifelong introvert, just instinctively am not. And he gave me a fantastic piece of advice about taking constructive criticism. He said, write back to that person and tell them thank you for that call, and tell them that, yes, you've identified something that I know in myself is something I'm working on. It's an area of growth and of opportunity for me to get better. And I just wanted to let you know that is something I am working on, and thank you for your feedback. And,
rather than stewing about it.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, it's not even just about acknowledging, it is just about acknowledging that. And sometimes that is enough to just kind of get the conversation. And everyone always appreciates being recognized, even if they're the person who's delivered to you this little bit of, and they might not even think that you will take it personally, but you may. Yes. And especially if you're taking it personally, just writing back to that person or contacting them or, however that communication happens, just saying to them, yes, I am working on that and thank you. Because, anyone who helps us get better, even if it's with something that we don't want to hear or that we are afraid of hearing.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the things that help us to be stronger and better and improve. And that is very much a Saturn thing and a Saturn Aries thing. And
it's a way you've got to take the grown-up route here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally.
You can't be the brat anymore. It's just not going to work.
No, exactly. And you can't, or the, the golden child, like a lot of us are, I will put my hand up to being an only child. And I wouldn't say I was spoiled but boy, did I get, the attention I wanted and the undivided attention of my mother. And I still do, which is amazing. But, but yeah, that the one thing it doesn't prepare you for is that constructive feedback that is not always delivered in that encouraging, wanting the best for you. And sometimes it is, but yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so I've got some thoughts here about how this, as Saturn changes and enters Aries, how it will be for each ascendant sign. So I've just got some ideas here, and I'm particularly talking about as it enters the different houses, because if we use the natural wheel, then it will be entering the first house. Yeah. But in reality, with your chart, you have to say, well, which house is Saturn in now? And when it changes to a different house, this would then make more sense.
Totally.
Let me get to it. If this is occurring for you in the first house, this is your identity and personal growth.
Yeah.
And my thoughts are that this is your time of transformation, but not without effort. Mm-hmm. Saturn in your own sign means a complete personal restructuring. You'll be challenged to take yourself seriously and commit to long-term goals to build a strong, mature identity.
Yeah.
If you've been reckless or inconsistent, Saturn will force you to step up, take control, and embody true leadership. You can expect tests of confidence, but also huge rewards for perseverance.
Absolutely, and I've seen that. I've seen that to be true anytime Saturn goes through someone's first house in whatever sign, but probably even more so when it's in Aries, because that Aries is so much about the self and the personality and that I am energy.
Yeah,
and feeling limitation in that realm of your life can be frightening and daunting, and luckily you have 2.5 years to work through that,
to work on yourself. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. And what could be better for someone who's got Aries rising?
Well, this is it.
You got 2.5 years to work on yourself. You lucky devil. Yeah.
So if you've got a Taurus rising, and therefore this is occurring in your 12th house of subconscious and spiritual growth, this is a deeply introspective time where hidden fears, past traumas, and subconscious patterns come to the surface. Saturn is likely to force you to let go of the old baggage, set healthy boundaries, and focus on inner healing when it's in your 12th house, and this is happening. Spiritual discipline, like meditation, therapy, or deep self-reflection, will be necessary for your inner transformation.
Yeah.
So, if you've got Saturn in the 12th and then in Pisces and then it moves into Aries, you are more likely to do something about it at this point. And of course, it's all about meditation for the long haul and,
self-improvement in an inner self-improvement.
Yes. Yeah. On your spiritual life.
And not falling prey to some sort of desire to numb or to distract.
I agree. Yeah.
That's so much 12th house buzzwords.
Sounds good. Yeah. So if you've got Gemini on your ascendant, this will then be going down in your 11th house of community goals and social influence.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's my mother.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's hope she's listening.
Yes.
Your social life and future aspirations are now under construction. Saturn asks you to refine your friendships, cut out superficial connections, and build meaningful networks.
I love that. Absolutely.
Long-term goals will need you to make some serious effort, but the rewards will be lasting.
Yeah.
Social status, networking, and leadership in group settings will probably become serious matters for you.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a great one.
That resonates 100%. That's wonderful. Yeah, and it's like building your, as they say, building your tribe, or building your network, and surrounding yourself with people who will strengthen you and who will enable you to complete your goals and to build your empire or
build your tribe,
build your
put
project.
Your flag in the ground and say, this is what I am, this is what I'm doing, and come with me.
Come with me, exactly. Follow me.
So you don't have to join other people's groups. You can now establish your own niche group about what is important for you.
Absolutely. And this is a great time because you will appear more charismatic to them and more of a
magnet,
authority, and more leadershipy, and those wonderful Aryan qualities where you're like, oh, who's that? What are they doing?
Yeah.
And harness that and use that for the next 2.5 years while that's in the 11th house.
That's a great idea, yeah. So we like to see lots of new groups popping up.
Definitely.
So Cancer rising, this will then be happening in your 10th house of career, public image, and legacy. So I'm suggesting your career and public standing are now under Saturn's watchful eye as Saturn moves through your 10th house. This is a time for professional growth, but also serious responsibility. If you've been unsure of your career path and the way forward, now Saturn will urge you to get clear on what you're doing. Work hard and prove your worth. Bosses, authority figures, or your own personal ambitions will demand more effort, but as always with Saturn, the results will lead to long-term success and recognition.
And I'm seeing a desire to focus, or a need to focus, rather.
Right.
Whereas maybe if you've had irons in all these different fires, or you've kind of been spreading yourself too thin professionally, and you've had a bunch of different things going on, or a bunch of different opportunities, now is the time to focus and to really decide where you're going to put that cardinal energy. And where the most bang for your buck is going to be professionally.
So it might even mean going after a particular role in the company. Instead of just general manager of widgets, maybe you want to be manager of oval widgets or triangular widgets, and zoom in and know what it is you want to be working on.
Right. Even if it's a lateral move, that's going to be a strategic move because you are focusing in on something that you are maybe more qualified to specialize in, or where you can bring much more fiery cardinal Aries energy to that one area instead of kind of hoping to, stay general and, or go where the wind blows, or, if you're waiting for someone to retire or to leave.
Dead men's shoes.
Like maybe carving your own path is the best way. And,
Good. So if you've got Leo rising, this will be going down in your 9th house of learning, travel, and expansion.
Nice.
So here, Saturn asks you to redefine your beliefs, your long-term vision, and your personal philosophy. Travel, education, and spiritual growth may require more effort, but structured learning and disciplined expansion will lead to profound wisdom. Saturn usually builds walls, but in the 9th house, it can also build bridges.
Nice.
So this will be bridges to your future public self, as it will soon cross the midheaven. This is the time to commit to higher education, start teaching, or refine your life's purpose through deep exploration.
I love that.
Now, I actually have this, and I am living with this 9th house thing. And not only do I do everything you see me doing, I'm also taking a structured course that's every Tuesday, which is going somewhere. And that's on one topic that's totally different. That's 2 hours every Tuesday. I also am running something through the university here on grammar, which is
amazing.
I know, like, who has time?
It's one of my favorite little subtopics.
Well, and it's all related. It's all related content, but it also so very differently. So even though you think I've learned everything I need to know, and at my age I'm still learning, hell yes I am. And I'm signing up for this, and then in April I'm actually starting another thing, and I'm thinking, I'm just going to have to get up even earlier to get all this done.
I love that. That's so harnessing the power of Saturn and Aries.
But it's the discipline to finally say, yes, I want to get this education. And yes, I want to know about that. Things I've always been interested in, but now I'm actually doing it.
Absolutely. Harnessing that energy that fiery energy of something new. And yes, I do have time for this because it's fascinating to me, as opposed to just, I need to learn this so I can get the credit so I can do the thing and get to the next level of blah, blah, blah. No, this is the exciting thing that you're charging into.
And I don't know if I mentioned to you previously about that in 2025, this year, as Saturn's been in this 9th house position, I bought more books this year, and we're only in March, than I have in the last 10 years.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I do prefer new books, so I generally order them from Amazon, and they are on topics that are close to my heart. I can talk about it with you later. Yeah. But the point is that learning new stuff and things that I've got a book here on the coffee table about typography, which I know, and I'm thinking I should have read this years ago, and it's just so interesting. There are so many aspects, and each of the 5, well, I've got 5 books so far, which I don't read that much, but this year I am broadening and building.
Yeah.
So it's not novels. We haven't got time for novels. Oh, no novels here.
I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's have a look then at Virgo ascendant. Right. So here, this is going to happen in your 8th house of intimacy, transformation, and shared resources. Yeah. So I'm suggesting that your approach to deep emotional connections, finances, and transformation will no doubt be restructured as Saturn passes through your 8th house. Saturn here asks you to take responsibility in committed financial matters, especially your debts, your taxes and inheritances, and to navigate deep emotional bonds with maturity. If you've avoided intimacy or vulnerability, this transit will force you to confront and heal those fears.
Wow. Someone with Virgo rising avoiding intimacy? What? I kid the Virgo rising. No, it is not. But I have plenty of planets in Virgo, as do we all.
But it's the 8th house, you see.
Exactly, yeah.
It's finding it, and this is where the tax man, you got to get it right. Mm-hmm. I've heard this a lot of times when Saturn going through 8, you better get your tax right. Yeah. So those are just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome.
Okay, so let's have a look now at Libra rising, and this would then occur in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships.
Yeah.
Saturn brings serious lessons in your relationships when it transits your 7th house. Mm-hmm. Whether you're single or in a partnership, expect tests in commitment, responsibility, and long-term compatibility. Mm. Any weak or fragile relationships may crumble now, while strong ones will be solidified through maturity and effort. This is a time to establish healthy relationship boundaries and redefine your expectations of love through partnerships.
Yeah, I love that.
And it is a tricky one because relationships that are on the rocks can crumble at this time. But, they just weren't meant to be, or they've run their course.
Yeah, absolutely. And for someone with Libra on the ascendant, there is a lot of focus already on the relationships in their lives. So this is just
cementing it all.
It's one of those testing times where those relationships come under additional scrutiny, and you find out what is healthy for you. Because again, it's that Aries, that personal. What is this relationship the right thing for me in the future? Is this healthy and constructive? And are we doing something positive in the world together?
Yeah.
Or are we a danger to ourselves and others?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So let's have a look at Scorpio rising. Mm-hmm. So this would be in your 6th house of work, health, and daily routine. So Saturn demands discipline in your daily habits, work routines, and health when it transits your 6th house. This is a time to commit to structured self-care, develop long-term health plans, and refine your work-life balance. You may take on more responsibilities at work, but organization and strategy will be key to avoiding burnout. A structured fitness or wellness routine will yield powerful results.
Yeah.
So even though I know you have Scorpio rising, this is not for you. It's not 6, is it?
It actually is, but when it's both. It's the 5th house and the 6th house. So
okay.
I'll be, I mean,
so
since
halfway
we don't
through.
use whole sign houses, we're using Placidus houses. That is our jam. Your mileage may vary. So if you are using whole sign houses and you're going, this all makes sense to us. If you're using Placidus houses, there's a bit of overlap. So you may want to listen to the one before and after.
So in your case, this is the 6th house is going to be halfway through the Saturn transit.
Exactly. And it'll start out in my 5th house and go into my 6th. So
okay.
Yeah, all that 6 stuff sounds very much like.
There's going to be a timetable and a list. There's going to be a list. I just know it. Yeah. So then with Sagittarius on the ascendant, this will all go down in your 5th house, which is where it's starting for you.
Right.
So this is creativity, passion, and romance. And here your natural, free-spirited, adventurous nature will be challenged to grow up a little and mature. Saturn in Aries urges you to take your creative projects seriously and turn your hobbies into businesses or passions into structured pursuits. Love and romance may feel more serious or restricted, but this is a time to build a meaningful and lasting love life rather than have endless fleeting flings.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to toss all those flings out, Arwynne.
Yes. And we laugh because as our dedicated listeners know, I have been with the same person and very, very delightedly, happily for 26 years. Yes. So, yes, there are.
You're coming up for your Saturn return on that relationship.
That's hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
And then with Capricorn rising, this will then go down in the 4th house of home, family, and emotional security. Mm-hmm. So what I'm suggesting here is when Saturn transits your 4th house, it suggests that big changes in your home, family, and personal foundations are coming.
Right.
Saturn may bring family responsibilities, moving against the urge, yes, home relocations, or challenges in establishing emotional security. Mm. If your life foundation isn't solid, this is the time to rebuild it with strength and get some concrete support in your life.
Investing in a first home.
Yeah. Real estate investments, general solidarity, or creating a stable home life will be major themes now.
Yeah.
And this is always an interesting house, the 4th house, because it's the foundation of your life. Mm-hmm. If you don't have things sorted at home, where you've got clothes to wear, food to eat, and you can then go out into the world, it becomes a concern and it worries you and it weakens you in general all across your whole life. So you've got to get that sorted out.
Totally.
Mm. And then Aquarius, if Aquarius is rising, this will then be in the 3rd house of communication, learning, and mindset. So your way of thinking, communicating, and processing information is about to undergo a mature transformation. Mm. It is time to get organized. Saturn transiting your 3rd house will challenge you to speak with clarity, structure your ideas, and focus on disciplined learning. Writing, teaching, or public speaking may become areas of responsibility, while casual conversations and superficial information will no longer satisfy you.
Yeah. And refining your communications so you're taking it as seriously as you need to be in your role or in your family or in your relationship. If you feel like you're not getting through to people, or if you feel that communications are not your strong suit, this would be a time to really strive for clear communications, clear, concise, simplified, so that you know that you're actually getting your message across and people aren't
thinking, she's a lightweight.
Yeah. Or, this person drones on and on. I don't know what he's getting at.
Yeah.
Like he overloads me with information. Just tell me what I need to know.
Yeah.
This is the time to clarify, simplify, and make sure that your point is getting across in a clear. Imagine that RAM. How would an Aries just do? It's like when you're sending an email, you think about how. If you were an Aries, how would you communicate this?
Yes.
Take out all the fluff. It doesn't mean you have to be rude, but be clear and concise and only give people the information they need. And if this is a weakness for you, this is a time where that will come to a head.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The rewards will be, manifest within the next couple of years.
Amazing. And then finally, we've got Pisces ascendant. So here, this will go down in your 2nd house of finances, self-worth, and stability. So I'm suggesting that financial responsibility is a major theme for you as Saturn transits your 2nd house. Mm-hmm. Saturn in Aries asks you to budget wisely, build financial security, and take responsibility for your resources. Yeah. You may have to work harder for money or for less money, but careful financial planning will lead to a long-term financial stability here. Yeah. On a deeper level, this transit will also challenge you to develop self-confidence and recognize your self-worth beyond material success.
Absolutely. And maybe that you don't need all of these external trappings. Maybe you can simplify.
But you don't need that handbag.
Maybe you don't need 8, to 10. And I swore.
Or that car.
Yeah, exactly. Just because there is a tightening of the belt sort of energy to this, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a thing of, that classic thing we always hear about French women and how fashionable they are. And they only have one of each item, and their closets are spare and sparse, and you can see the space between each hanger, and they don't have like a million outfits, or like a million items for each event. It's like, oh no, they have like one sweater that goes with everything, and they have one perfect skirt that goes with everything, and like one splash of color for each outfit, blah blah blah. And it's that kind of thing taken to whatever aspect of your life you need to apply it to. And in this case, it would be your personal finances, your personal values, your possessions, whatever it is that you find yourself spending too much money on, and it's putting you into this crunch. And if you do have to, God forbid, work for less or something like that, find ways to trim where you need to, but at the same time where it's not going to hurt you, because it is Saturn in Aries. So there's that personality and that fiery drive to express yourself that is still trying to come through that Saturn restriction. But if it's in your second house, it's going to be about simplifying down to the bare essentials, but still essential. So you're not restricting anything you need. It's the things you don't need that you think you need that will go.
Yeah.
And that's just a matter of maybe a list or, careful chat with old ChatGPT or your actual counselor and say, what can I get rid of? And, that will help me to streamline my life and
stop buying stuff because society says you need more X, Y, Z. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So then overall, I believe that this Saturn going into Aries, my keywords here are discipline meets drive.
Yeah.
And that Saturn in Aries is going to be a time to step up, take some risks with limits, and develop true grit.
Yes. Oh, I love it. True grit.
Yeah, the world will likely see emerging leaders, shifts in authorities, and a push towards individual personal empowerment. And if you've been waiting for a sign to take control of your destiny, this is it.
Yeah.
Saturn in Aries is a time for bold transformation where discipline meets drive and responsibility fuels innovation. This is the time to get things in place and get things done. It's a contradictory energy which challenges you to take ownership of your ambitions, act with wisdom, and build a strong foundation for your lasting success. Don't miss the chance to lean into this transit and get things sorted out once and for all. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's not the easiest transit.
No. I mean, and we're never going to talk about Saturn in a way that's it'll be a breeze. Looking forward to it. It's awesome. But Saturn is always somewhere,
Yeah, and as we've seen that where it is, even in my house at the moment and your house at the moment, it's having its effect already on what we're doing.
Yeah.
That 2 years ago we weren't doing. Yeah. And that's the difference between Saturn. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so we've spoken about the upcoming transit of Saturn into Aries. We've spoken a bit about what does Saturn mean. We've spoken about what does Aries mean, and we've brought the two together and suggested some ideas for each of the ascendant signs to give you a bit of a clue. If you found value in this episode, please do consider sharing it with anybody who'd be interested. Make sure you're getting our newsletter, which you can sign up for at starzology.com/newsletter, so you don't miss a thing. And make sure that you're following Arwynne, and you can find her at
mspink.net. That's mspink.net. And I am sending out a weekly newsletter every Saturday. I blog about books, art, movies, history, whatever catches my fancy. Goddesses. Yes, it's a good read.
It absolutely is, yes. So, Arwynne, thank you for joining me again on this podcast episode.
Thank you. This has been great. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.